Now, the Democratic Alliance has renewed its call for government to respond to farm attacks following 2 attacks at farms in KwaZulu-Natal in which 4 people were killed. For more on this, I'm joined now by DAKZN spokesperson on agriculture and rural development, Chris Pappas. Chris, good evening and thank you very much for your time tonight. The latest attacks having happened days apart, just give us details.
Thanks very much for having me. Before I do, I just want to extend my condolences on behalf of my party to all the victims as well as the communities. And just a correction, it's there's actually been 6 attacks in the past 3 weeks, all of them involving people who are elderly, most of them vulnerable in isolated areas. So it is not just the latest attacks that have happened this weekend, but a series of attacks that have happened over the last 14 days or so.
In the last 14 days, have we received any response from the Premier at least, or from the Minister of Police, even from the Presidency itself?
You know what, the sad thing is that when you do get these responses or you do see condolences in the media, that's all it is. It's empty condolences with little action after that. These condolences mean nothing. These letters from their spokespersons or tweets or Facebook posts mean nothing without action afterwards that stops them from happening to any other people. So yes, there have been some statements by the MEC of Agriculture in this province, but nothing meaningful will come from that, and that's a problem for us.
The community awaits government to take decisive action. That's the statement from your side, Chris. What is that decisive action?
Well, I think there's a number of things that we can do to try and solve this problem or at least reduce it. And the decisive action that we're looking for is for government to stop paying lip service to the problem. We've eventually pressured the government to actually acknowledge that we do have a problem. Now what we need is the dedicated resources to sort this out. So the example that I'd like to use is when we see cash and transit heists on the increase, or when we see truck violence on our highways, government is quick to respond. They allocate the necessary resources and mobilize police to deal with the issue. They engage with unions, they engage with the stakeholders, and they try to fix the situation. But in the case of farm murders and farm attacks to our farm workers and our rural communities, we don't see this. And this has been happening for a number of years. And we should be worried about this. We should be asking, why is there such a delay? Why is there the lack of political will to put the resources where the problem is?
Now, when you look at, of course, the farming community and how this affects them, I mean, where are they sitting right now in terms of their own comfort, but in terms of their ability to do their work?
Well, I think it must be very difficult to be a farmer. As the son of a farmer, I know that I have sleepless nights thinking about my parents. You know, you wake up early in the morning to toil the land, and not only must you put up with COVID, policy uncertainty, and an economy that's declining, but then you must spend your evenings and late nights trying to defend your family and your community. So you can imagine that the people who are putting food on our tables not only have the burden of battling the elements, but they also have the burden of battling criminality in our country.
Have farmers expressed that they are contemplating actually taking matters into their own hands? We do know, and we have seen instances of farmers actually beefing up their own private security. And we've seen some videos circulating on social media where farmers are saying, well, we are preparing ourselves to defend ourselves with some heavy weaponry.
Yeah, I think we must differentiate from the scare tactics, you know, that you're speaking about with you know, heavy machinery. But farmers are definitely, you know, considering how better they can equip themselves and how better they can train themselves and their communities and the people around them to protect themselves. I don't think it's an unreasonable thing to do. And again, I say this separating the sort of extremist people that you might have been alluding to. But you know, when you have so many attacks happening and so many murders happening in succession, and in particularly Gauteng, KZN, and the Free State, then you must ask yourself, well, what do we expect our farmers and our farm workers, what do we expect rural communities to do when they're so detached from where the resources are that are supposed to be protecting them?
What do you say is lacking, Chris, in the rural safety plan, which part of course, was to bring back some of the reservists who were in the military to come back and particularly look at the holistic approach to fighting criminality around our rural areas?
Well, like many of our policies and plans in government, you know, they are really good. But at the end of the day, without implementation and without shifting resources to actually implement those plans, they are just words on paper. So I think the first thing we need to do is stop the fruitless and wasteful expenditure, stop the corruption that we see in our country, and put the money where the problem is. The common example that is used is SAA. We keep spending money on SAA. The latest was 10 billion rand. And we take money away from critical services such as police, education, health, and that's where we need to be focusing. We need to stop putting money at things that are not going to work, and put the money at those things that are critical for our country to survive. And in this case, it's farmers and their workers, who without, we would have very critical food shortages in our country.
What is the action that will be taken by the Democratic Alliance to, I suppose, compel and force government to take that decisive action?
So on top of the suggestions that we've put forward already, as well as the pressure that we have been putting on government, and we've seen that the media attention around farm murders has increased since we've started to re-engage on this particular matter. We have also held a meeting today at 5 o'clock with the provincial or the interprovincial work stream on rural safety, which comprises of who's chaired by Diane Kohler-Barnard and comprises all the spokespersons throughout the provinces. And we have committed to start engaging more with our international stakeholders on this. And this follows on the back of getting feedback from the 10 international human rights organizations that we have written to. Some of them who have indicated that this is the first time that they're hearing of it, of this particular problem, and that they were not aware that there was such a big problem in South Africa, and that they were going to take it up with their relevant structures.
Chris Pappas, appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us. DA KZN spokesperson on agriculture and rural development.